Hi there, this is Patricia from patriciafenty.com, and today I have a really fun and easy crochet tutorial for you. I am calling this a Happyghan because of all the beautiful cheerful and joyful colors that I've put into this pattern. And so I think this blanket would be fabulous for a baby blanket, and because of all the different colors, it doesn't matter if it's for a boy or a girl. It's just, you know, all these happy, joyful, celebrative colors. And I also think this would be super for like a lap blanket, especially for someone who might be in the hospital or in long-term care, or an elderly person, or somebody, you know, just to have a blanket that is so full of cheerful and lovely colors. And so this blanket measures 32 inches by 40 inches. And then I'll give you an option that you can make it a little bit bigger to 38 by 46 inches. And so yeah, and I think these colors are just so much fun. I love it. And what I love about granny square patterns is they're so easy to do. And then this blanket's totally suited for beginners. And I do have a little secret that I'm going to show you about how you can crochet a blanket and keep the tension very even so that you don't end up with any wonky tension or anything like that. And so if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, please do so, and also hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any upcoming creative and inspiring videos. So next we're going to talk about the supplies. Now, the materials that you'll need for this project is a number 4 medium weight yarn. And so I'm using the Bernat premium line for the most part. And the colors that are in this pattern are the gold, the iced aqua, the robin egg, teal, baby lilac, pink rose, hot pink, coral peach, and I have a couple of the Bernat Super Value. It's a peony pink and an aqua. I'm not using the white or the green. This is just my little sample board because my yarn is all in a big mess. And then I wanted to have a dark purple, and I have this light lavender, and I wanted a dark purple, and I couldn't find that in the premium line. So I do have the Bernat Satin. This is just part of my stash, and this color here is grape. So I use that for the dark purple. So of course you can use any colors you like in a number 4 medium weight yarn or worsted yarn. So you'll just need some scissors, a darning needle, and I'm using a 4mm or a G6 crochet hook. And that's all that you need. Now, to begin this pattern, you will start with 6 granny squares that have 6 rounds all together. And the colors that I used in these squares, I started with the hot pink, and then the baby lilac, and the gold, and the teal, and then the Super Value, the peony pink, and the last round is the iced aqua. So those are the colors that I used, and so I'm not going to show you in this tutorial how to do a granny square. I do have a tutorial on how to make a granny square, so I'll put a link to that below. And you'll see in that tutorial, I show you a special way to finish off the last round where you use a needle and thread to make an invisible finish. For this tutorial, you don't have to do that. You can just finish off the round by doing your last chain 1 and joining the round with a slip stitch into that 3rd chain of your beginning chain 3. And also in that tutorial, I show a chain 1 to fasten off in the previous rows. And someone emailed me and they said, why do you do that? And I said, well, because that's how my mom did it, and that's how my grandma did it. And I thought she made a really good point, because if you do a chain 1, it actually makes a knot and it's kind of bulky. So now I just finish off by pulling the yarn through and not doing a chain 1 for a knot. So it's totally up to you. And then the other thing that I'm doing with this square and with this whole pattern is I'm reversing the rows each time I go around with a new color. And so what I mean by that is I start with my first round with my sets of 3 double crochets, but you'll see this row is the back of the stitch, and what I do is I flip the square over and I go in the other direction, and then I reverse the square again with a new color and I do the row the other way, and I flip the square with each round. Now, when you're doing granny squares this size, you don't have to do that. But the reason why I'm doing this is because when you are creating a granny square blanket and you're working in the round, and later on the rounds will be getting bigger and bigger, depending on what your tension is like, the tension can pull the blanket in the one direction and kind of make it wonky and sort of warped. And it just depends on your tension, and some people crochet kind of tight and that can happen. And so I'm just going to do the entire blanket where I reverse the blanket for every row. And I kind of like the pattern that it creates. It's kind of fun. And every second row has the sort of back stitch. And in a way then the blanket could be quite reversible. So that's what I'm going to do. Now you don't have to do that. You can just go in the round in the same direction. That's totally up to you. But anyways, go ahead and make 6 of these squares and we'll come back and sew them together. Welcome back. So of course I forgot to mention you want to darn in all your tail ends. And now we're going to sew the squares together. And when you're sewing them together, just make sure you keep your knot to the outside of the panels. And so I have my knot here and a knot there. And I'll be sewing 3 squares together this way and 3 squares together this way. So those will all be on the outside, because then you don't have to do an invisible stitch or stitch into that knot. You'll just be crocheting your sets of 3 double crochets over that knot. So here we are at the front of the square with the last row facing up, and you want to cut about 3 times the length of your square of yarn. And put that on your darning needle. And then you're going to start in the chain 2 corner, and you'll be going in the first chain going into that corner. You're going to pick up both chains on each side. So go into that first chain and just picking up the top loop only, and then on the adjacent square pick up the same stitch, just the top loop only, and just pull your yarn through and leave a little bit of a tail to darn in later on. And then you come back over to the front square and pick up that loop again, coming from the front and picking up the loop of the second stitch. And these are the chain 2s now that you've sewn together. And then going into the square, just pick up the those single loops only. And this creates a really nice flat join. And of course you can join your squares any way you like. I just really like this stitch because it's just a very nice, neat and flat join. And you can see they line up very nicely. So coming to the end here, again, you want to pick up those 2 chains in the corner. So that's the first one and getting the second one there. Just like that. And see how nice that looks? And then you're going to darn in your tail ends into the back there like that. And then when you flip it over, it's very neat on the back side as well. So join the 3 squares together in a row and then sew those 2 panels together. Welcome back. So you can see that I joined these 3 squares together and these 3 squares together, and now I'm joining the 2 of them together along the long seam. And so I measure the yarn 2 lengths of this plus about another panel length for the yarn to go all the way across. And then as you're coming to the intersection here, you're picking up your stitches here. They're lining up very nicely, but you just want to make sure that you pick up the joining stitch here. So where you sewed these two together, there will be a stitch where you darned in your ends, and you want to pick those up as well so that you have a nice join in the intersection. And it's not a crochet stitch, it's a sewing stitch. So you just want to pick that up and carry on and then darn in your tail ends. All right, so all the squares have been sewn together, and working into the back of the rows, if you're flipping the blanket like me, and just join on with a slip knot. And I'm starting with the Super Value Aqua color. And so just starting in any chain 1 space, you're going to start doing the granny square pattern. So join on with a slip stitch, chain 3, and do 2 double crochets to complete that cluster of 3 double crochets, and then chain 1 and do another set of 3 double crochets in the next chain 1 space, and then chain 1. And then coming into the corner, you're just working the same corner as usual with a set of 3 double crochets and a chain 2 and another set of 3 double crochets. And so you're just working this granny square stitch all the way around the blanket and doing the chain 1 in between your sets of 3 double crochets. And so just carry on down, and I'll see you once you get here, and I'll show you what we'll do here. Now, once you get to this intersection here and you have these corners here, which are chain 2 spaces, so I just finished my cluster with a chain 1, and you're just going to work a set of 3 double crochets into these chain 2 spaces. And this will just be for the first round that you'll be working into these spaces. So then chain 1 and then go over your seam there and work into the next chain 2 space with a set of 3 double crochets and a chain 1. And so you'll do that at all the intersections as you work your way around the blanket. So carry on working into your chain 1 spaces and work your corners as normal, and we'll see you at the end. Welcome back. Here I am at the end of this row, and I've worked my last set of 3 double crochets and the chain 1, and I'll just fasten off by doing a slip stitch into the 3rd chain of your beginning chain 3, just like the regular granny squares. And oops, this is a little bit tight. And again, if you like, you can do a chain 1 to fasten off. I'm just gonna pull the yarn through and snug it up. And then you can darn in your tail ends if you like, or you can crochet it in a little bit and darn them in a little later. That's totally up to you. So now for the next round, I'm going to flip my work, flip the blanket and work into the back. And this round I'm using the Premium Hot Pink, and join in any chain 1 space, and you'll just work another round in the hot pink. So join on with a slip stitch and chain 3 and do 2 more double crochets into that chain 1 space, and carry on working the granny square stitch all the way around and in this hot pink. And of course, if you're wanting to if you're not wanting to flip your blanket like I am, you'll just be working in the round, going in the same direction, changing your color with each new round. So carry on with the hot pink, and I will see you at the end. Here we are at the end of this row. And again, just joining on with a slip stitch into the third chain of the beginning, chain 3. And there you go. And so now I've flipped the blanket, and I'm using the premium pink rose, working into the back side and joining into any chain 1 space. And again, if you're not flipping your blanket, you'll just carry on going in the same direction. And so just carry on now with the row of pink rose, just as before. And I'll show you the next few colors. Welcome back. So after I finished the round of the pink rose, I flipped my work and I went on and did the gold color, and then flipped again and did the Bernat satin in the grape, and then did the baby lilac and again the grape color, again flipping the blanket with each new round. So now I'm going to carry on, and I'll be repeat some of the pink tones, and so I'll do a few more rounds and show you what I've done there. All right, here we are. So I did a row of the hot pink, and then I did a row of the Super Value Peony Pink, and then a row of the Coral Peach, and then I just finished with a row of the Pink Rose. And now I'm going to go into the green tones, but if you wanted to make this a bigger blanket, from this point, you could actually reverse this variegated theme again. So you could carry on and do a row of the Coral Peach, a row of the Peony Pink, and then finish up with a row of the Hot Pink. And I think that would look really, really nice. And then you could do the same thing with the green tones. So I'm going to carry on, and I'll be doing a variegated where I'm reversing from the dark pink to the light pink, from the light green to the dark green. So what I'll be doing is I'll be starting with the robin egg, and then I'll do a row of the aqua, and then I'll finish with the row of the teal, and then I'll do one more row to finish off the blanket. But again, if you want to create as a bigger blanket, then if you did the variegation here and you finish with your row of the hot pink, I would then start with the teal, do a row of teal, a row of aqua, a row of robin egg, a row of aqua, and a row of teal. And we'll finish off the final round. And that'll give you 5 extra rows, and that will make the blanket bigger. So anyway, I'm going to carry on and do 3 more rows and come back and show you the final round. Welcome back. So here I've completed 3 more rows, and again, I'm flipping my blanket with each round. And I really love the way this has turned out. So this is the robin egg and the aqua, and the last round was the teal. Now we're just going to do one final row of single crochet just to give it a really simple and clean finish. Now finishing up this row, normally when you fasten off, when you join into the third chain of your beginning chain 3, usually you go under the 2 loops there. But for this round, you're just going to join into the back loop with a slip stitch. And then chain 1, and then do a single crochet into the top loop of the next stitch, and do another single crochet into the top loop of the next stitch. And you're going to single crochet just into the top loop of every stitch all the way around. And This is such a simple border, but it's really quite nice. So go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what to do in the corner. All right, so coming into the corner, you'll be doing your single crochet, and this may look like your first chain. That's actually the top of your double crochet from the previous row. So you want to catch that with a single crochet. And this is your first chain in your chain 2 space. So go under the top loop only. You'll do 2 single crochets into that one chain, and then 2 single crochets into the next chain of that chain 2 space. And then you'll just carry on doing single crochets into the top loop of all the other stitches, and you'll do that all the way around. So go ahead and do that, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, so coming to the end of this round, and I've already cut my yarn because I took photographs of this step. So I'm just finishing off my last couple of single crochets, and the last one goes into the chain 1, and then you're at this your beginning chain 1, and you could fasten off by just doing a slip stitch into that first chain 1, but I like to finish this off with the invisible stitch, and that's what I show in my granny square tutorial. So just pull the yarn through and thread the needle on, and I really like to finish the last round with this invisible stitch. So pull the yarn through and come back in and pick up the top loops of the next stitch. That's your chain 1. Pull the yarn through, and essentially what you're doing is you're mimicking a stitch. I'll try to come up a little bit higher here. And then you'll go back down into that stitch where this yarn comes out of. You're going to go into that V and go into the back of your work, and you'll just snug it up and kind of fuss with it and try to mimic the stitch. And you can see how that makes a really nice, even, smooth finish without a knot. And then you just darn your tail into the back. And then, of course, you want to darn in all your other tail ends. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be back with my final reveal. All right, here we are. It's all done, and I've darned in all my tail ends. And if you do a really neat job darning in your tail ends, this blanket really is reversible, because when you flip the blanket with each row, there is no real wrong side, and the only thing that could be considered the wrong side would be kind of the back of the blocks here where they were joined together. But this is so neatly done that I think this could be the front, or I'll flip it over this way, or this could be the front. So I think it looks really nice either way. And I'll just bring it in here a bit. And you can see how nice that border is, that single crochet border. It's really so simple, but by crocheting into the back loop of each post, you give this really nice, simple frame around the blanket, and it finishes it off so nicely. So I just love this blanket. It's so much fun. I think it could be called a Happyghan because of all the bright and happy colors. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more creative and inspiring videos. Thank you for joining me.